Welcome back. Did the Alien movies last time, decided to go back and watch Predator movies, and we'll add them to the Alien tier list that I did before. Um, watch these all pretty closely together. Hopefully, they won't like blend too much in my head. I think they're all different enough where they won't. There might be some things that I forget though that I'd probably want to talk about that don't pop in my head right away. But based off last time, these are the Alien movies as well as Alien versus Predator. So I already did the AVP movies, and it's kind of based on like how much I liked it. I mean, there's nothing like, oh, this is the best made movie or anything. Um, so the awesome movies, I had Aliens and Alien. These are like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 type movies. Good. Alien Romulus, I think I had like a 7, something like that. Entertaining were those that I didn't mind watching. They had some good points to them, but they weren't great for sure. Not good movies or shows. Alien Earth as well. I was like, it's kind of dumb. And then terrible movies that I was like, what's this? What's the point of this? So I just had the two Alien vs Predator movies there. So we'll see where these fall. I might have to kind of talk myself through a couple of these to remember exactly how I felt about it. But there's only 6, and I did include Killer of Killers, which is like an animated one. So, but it is canon, I think. I think it was the same person who did Prey, maybe. Seemed like it was canon. So, anyway, Predator, the original Predator. Out of these, I had only seen Predator, Predator 2, and some of Predators, I think. So, Predator, I've probably seen, I don't know, handful of times. And then it was one of those movies that's just like back in the day when you had cable on, it was on TNT or something, you'd see parts of it. Um, Predator 2, I'd probably only seen all the way through once, a long time ago, and then parts of it, here and there again. Predators, some of it looked familiar. Like I remember Adrian Brody, I remember Lawrence Fishburne, but I did not see the movie fully. I know because when I watched it this time, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen or what the plot is. Then there is, I think it's The Predator, which is, I don't think I had heard about it. I had never seen it at all. I knew a couple of the actors that were in it, but I had never seen it. Prey, I'd heard about, seen like what it was about, didn't see it. And then Killer of Killers is newer, and I think I knew it existed, but I didn't watch any of it. So now I've seen them all, but Predator is the one I'd seen the most. It is the best one, I think, of all of them, just as a spoiler alert. Uh, it's an interesting movie because, like, I forgot a little bit about how much lead in there is before it gets to, like, the jungle horror kind of feel or the sci fi jungle horror feel. You do have a good amount of just the, like, mercenary Rambo 2, I guess, First Blood Part 2, kind of feel to it at the beginning. Even some things like the music score at the beginning, I wasn't like a huge fan of because it felt more like a military movie, which is fine. I think I was coming off the Alien movies though, so I was like more into the alien sci-fi genre. But once it gets going, it's good. It's totally fun. Even at the beginning, to get to like see the characters and know the characters, it's good in that regard. Kind of like the Alien movie and Aliens movies, where despite a few lines here and there, of not a ton of like attention to a specific character, you get a sense of their personalities. You care about them enough to where, like, if a death happens, it has some weight to it. Uh, then the actual Predator stuff is awesome. Like when it gets to that point, um, I remember as a kid, this was one of those movies that freaked me out, like in real life. I'm like, there could be a predator up in the trees or whatever. Like, how would I know it's an alien and it is cloaked? And like, who's to say it's not real? So yes, as a very young kid, you're kind of like, whoa, that was weird. And I did see this when I was pretty young. So it did freak me out. And then like the parts where it gets creepy, it's like something's coming, but you're not quite there. You don't know what it looks like. and then you finally see it. I always thought it was cool that they showed the perspective of the predator instead of it just being like this thing you don't know what it is. You're seeing the heat vision. Obviously, that's a huge part of it. That's in like every other show. But that was always cool because it does give you some connection with the predator. And strangely, like as I got through all of these, that was something that mattered. It's like I had to have some connection to the predator for it to matter. For example, like in the Alien versus Predator movies, they're not good movies, but I didn't, I was like almost having a hard time identifying which one was which, and some died. I know there was like one with the scar, call him Scar. But it's like I didn't really get his perspective that much, and maybe it was just because the movie was bad. But like in this one, you get a sense of what it's doing and how it's trying to like navigate things, and even if it's the first one and you don't have all the context of what the other ones are, like it was really well done to make you feel that connection. And then, like I said, you already had the connection with the mercenaries too. Uh, so they differentiated the characters enough to where they didn't just feel like a bunch of military guys, which was cool, different weapons and all that stuff. Um, Billy was great. I always liked Billy when I was a kid. The Native American tracker kind of concept. Dutch obviously was awesome with Arnold, but those were my like growing up kind of favorites, and I think it was pretty much reaffirmed when I watched it again. Though the one that grew on me more this time was Mac. I remembered Mac, but I didn't really like remember exactly the whole like part of him, kind of feeling like he was going nuts or being paranoid or whatever. And then, to their credit, they put up a good fight. I think a lot of the characters like put up a decent fight, even though they died. So a lot of cool characters. And then the ending was awesome. Like the Arnold, going all mudding up and learning his lessons and taking out the predator was great. Uh, I was kind of laughing at myself though, because I thought at the end of Predator, it's like imagine if there is a Valhalla for predators where they go after they die, and somebody's asking like this predator, it's like, well, dude, how'd you die? He's like, oh, well, I blew myself up, and took him out. It's like, yeah, but why did you have to blow yourself up? I'm like, oh, I got hit by a log in the head. That's like, oh, okay. I have all this technology and stuff, and I got hit by a trap that was a log in my head. So that came into play in other Predator movies too, as they explained like the weight you got to have and all this stuff, which I didn't think was needed, but yeah, it was definitely a cool ending. The one thing I question myself on, because I forgot about this at the beginning of the movie, is as to if it would have been better without it, and I don't know that it would have, is they show the ship, they show the alien like coming down to Earth, and then the movie goes. And so what it led to me again, and I think I said this with Alien, because I don't remember, it's like what was the promotional material for this? And I don't remember, like, because I would have assumed Arnold's a big enough name at that point, maybe that people would go see a movie anyway. He's a commando and all this stuff. But if the trailer and everything had the alien in it, then it spoils it anyway. But like if you look at the cover here, which I don't have fully on the screen, but if you look at the cover, it's got just Arnold. I'm like, well, then would it have been better for me not to know that it was an alien, and then all of a sudden when the alien comes, it's like, oh crap, like this is a sci-fi movie. Like it went from, like I said, being the military type movie to a sci-fi movie. So again, I don't know. I thought it would have been maybe cool if you didn't know that and didn't know that it was an alien, and then it came. But anyway, Predator. I think that's most of what I need to say there. The action's great. I always appreciate the special effects. Oh, the design of the Predator is awesome. Like I take it for granted because it's been around forever, right? That it's iconic and everything, but it's just like that the suit and everything was awesome. So you really felt intimidated. The face and everything when it takes the plate off is great. So it is in my awesome category. Again, in terms of movies I like have fun / enjoy watching, like what order would I watch it in? I would actually have Predator second, I think, right behind Aliens. Um, and right ahead of Alien. Alien's a great film, but I think I'd rather see Predator, especially the back half of Predator, which is super fun. Okay, then we have Predator 2. All right, like I said, I'd seen Predator 1 long time ago. And then Predator 2, I probably saw when it came out close to that. I was a little bit older. Um, and then I definitely didn't see it in the theater, but I remember I think seeing it like on a VHS. I remember the box cover and Danny Glover being a headliner on it. Um, I didn't remember a ton about it. I remembered a few scenes about it. Like I remember certainly the end. He's like in the spaceship. I remember the subway scene. I think was one, um, and maybe a couple other things. The gang member things a little bit, but totally different movie here. Uh, Obviously no Arnold. I didn't really read up, and I'm not like a Predator Alien like fanatic, so I don't know all the details. I think it was that he like didn't like the script or something, or was going to be a co-lead or something. I don't remember, but he was not in it. So you have to then find somebody else, and they don't go with like kind of a just Arnold replacement. They move it to a city. It is Danny Glover from like Lethal Weapons, what I always knew Danny Glover from. Um, and I didn't remember Danny Glover that much from the first time I watched it. So I was like, oh, well, let's see how this goes. I thought he was a much better lead than I would have given him credit for. I think he did fine in the movie. I felt connected to his character. I felt like he was doing good from an action standpoint. So he kept me engaged. I liked the side characters. Some had personality. Gary Busey, who's always tough to miss in movies, and then Bill Paxton was in it as Lambert, which there's a Lambert in Alien. I don't know if they're related. I don't think so. But he's a fun character in it as well. Just mouthy and you know talks up a lot, but again makes the deaths a little bit more meaningful. I wasn't a huge fan of his partner that died, like that went up and like searched the apartment or whatever after everybody left. He was okay, but I thought that character could have been a little stronger. Like the death didn't like mean too much to me. Um, the gang stuff was a little over the top, but again, for the time, this reminded me more of like a RoboCop type feel of the environment, and like I get it, the '90s, and it was a different type of environment. So it got a little hokey with some of the gang stuff. You had what King Willie or whatever his name was that got his head ripped off. Um, but at the same point, like I get they had to have like some it's in the city, so you got to have like I guess something driving it. But ultimately, what it felt like for most of the movie was that the of what the police were trying to do, the Predator was actually the best cop in the movie. He like took out most of the drug trade, probably. I don't know, or at least they had to get replacement because he took them out. So aside from that, Danny Glover kind of gets to the point at the end where all these folks had died. The Predator, I know, had let the lady live because she was pregnant, and I don't. I guess that was why, because I think she was armed, but she was pregnant. And that's a theme they keep like harping on these movies is like, oh, if they're a threat, they'll attack, and if you're not a threat, they'll leave you alone. I think there's some times where that seems a little inconsistent, or sometimes where you're like, dude, the Predator could easily kill this person, so unless they're just like truly toying with them or whatever, why aren't they just using their little thing, right? The little blades right in their head or something. But for the most part, like it seems pretty consistent here. Predator does take out a lot of people, like in the subway. That's when Bill Paxton kicks the bucket, but he, dies heroically, trying to do his thing. That's also, for me, a big thing about these movies is like, what's your character do to be, heroic? So that was good. And then the end, you have Danny Glover fighting the Predator like in the spaceship. I didn't quite get like the other Predators being there. Like, were they already there? Did they come on another spaceship? Why are they there if they're not hunting stuff? Like, did they expect him to die? I didn't quite get it. There's probably good reason, and I didn't pick it up. But then, Danny Glover's actually honored at the end to give him the revolver, the little gun, and he is almost blown up in at the end. So he's like covered in ash and everything. They're like, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy from like the DEA walks up and is like, "Hey, what the hell?" And he just brushes him off, like, "Screw yourself." Gary Busey, I didn't remember too much from the original time that I watched this. I kind of thought he was just the like a-hole DEA agent that like screwed things up and then deserved to die. But he actually had more of a bit of a redeeming role because he, you know, let him see the video of what was going on, Danny Glover's character, and tried to help. They had like a strategy to wear these coolant suits, which worked for a while, but the Predator apparently can change how they're looking, through their visors and stuff, which I still get a little confused by. I'm sure there's an explanation, but it's like they have eyes. So if they took their mask off, can they not just see these things? Maybe not. It's like, oh no, they're blind, or I don't know. But anyway, they do that. It doesn't work. They get caught and slaughtered, and Gary Busey ends up like saying he's mine, and then he gets torn to bits in a meat packing thing. But he was a fun character, kind of abrasive, but like wasn't like a bad guy or anything. More to come on him. He actually has a tie into one of these other films too. Okay, Predator 2. To wrap it up, I enjoyed. I would watch this movie again. I thought, again, it was a little hokey, little 90s over the top, but I would watch it before Romulus. I'll say it was good. This is probably one that I would guess has a lot of detractors because of people that like the original Predator. Arnold is not in it. If I would have, and I don't think he was in there, if I would have like ideally had one little thing, it was when they were watching the video cameras or the Gary Busey was showing Danny Glover like the history of it, that you would have seen Arnold giving an interview or something, just as a little call out. But I know he wasn't available for the movie, so can't do it. But anyway, I'll have it as good. Again, it's probably like a 7 for me. There's probably a cult following for this one, more than a like everybody loves it or hates it. So all right, then we get into some movies I had not seen. Didn't really have any historical context other than like a few things. So Predators, which came out many years later. I want to say like Predator 2 was 1990. Predators was like 2010. So a long time that they went without a real Predator movie. They had the Alien versus Predator movies in between there, which were kind of garbage. So they probably took a little bit more time even after that to get a realistic script together. So Predators goes back to the jungle concept of being hunted, takes it a little bit more to an extreme because you are there in like a gaming preserve on another planet. So you start with like Adrian Brody falling out of the sky. He's spinning and he puts on a parachute, and all of a sudden he lands. He finds these other mercenaries. It's the whole like cliche kind of we need one of every type of fighter deal, and the Predators have gone and researched and said, hey, we need a guy from the special forces, and of course we need a Soviet, Russian special ops guy, and a dude from the Yakuza, and a whatever. Was that kind of weird? Yeah, it was kind of dumb. Do I think the movie was miscast a little bit? I do. Like, Adrian Brody is not an action star to me. I don't think he's been in any other action movies that I recall. I didn't really buy him as a lead in this. Now, that said, he wasn't terrible. Like, it wasn't on him in his acting. I think he gave it all, but it's just like that character didn't really resonate with me. Some of the other characters I thought were fine, even though they were like archetype characters. It's like, the Yakuza guy was fine. The Danny Trejo wasn't in it very long, but fine. The Russian guy I thought was fine. Like he had his moments. I could have seen him just being a oh, the, cannon fodder, Russian guy. But no, he sacrificed himself and killed one as they went. So I thought that was good. You had, the inmate uh, character, Walter Goggins, I think's his name. Um, that was kind of funny. Always only had a knife. They wouldn't give him a gun. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with that? But he used his knife and was redeeming. He sacrificed himself, and I think he got his skull and spine torn out for it. But he's always fun in movies. And then you had Topher Grace as Edwin, the why is this guy here kind of deal. And then it ends up he's a serial killer. But I'm like, you what want to hunt this like Hannibal Lecter character? Like, what? He's not really a threat. Like, you just kill him. So he was kind of weird, and I don't know that it was casted well. I would have done somebody else who was a little like creepier or something, or given him a reason to be there. So that was weird. He tried to like kill the girl and poison her at the end and associate himself with being a predator. A little weird. You also had in this one probably, well, it was the first instance of like competition between the predators, where the one was like a prisoner, the other ones used it as bait or something, and they came out and you know released him to try to get on the spaceship, and the spaceship blew up, and that was their ticket off the planet. And then at the end, you got like a couple of them that survive, and they're gonna just stay there. The new people are coming down in parachutes. I get it, like what they were going for. I don't think it made a whole lot of sense. Um, there was even a scene, and I could be wrong. I almost wanted to go back and watch this when I was watching it. There's like early on where Adrian Brody's talking to the girl, I think like Isabel's her name, um, and they're talking about like what planet are they on. They weren't even saying that. They're just like, "Ooh, what jungle are we in?" She's like, "I've seen every jungle." It's like you've seen every jungle in the Earth. Like, give me a freaking break. It's huge. But anyway, okay, let's assume that they were standing out in the open. I thought by like some water, and they're having this conversation like, how do you know we're on another planet? And it's like, oh, there's the sun, and the sun doesn't move. It hasn't moved. It's like, okay. Then like 5 minutes later, they walk out on this cliff, and you see like a billion planets around, which I'm not even going to get into like the whole gravity aspect of that. But it's like, wouldn't you have seen any of that earlier? Like, I know the sun's up, but if the planet's like 5 miles away, you're probably going to see it. So that was a little weird, but I could be wrong. So yeah, there were just some things like that that kind of like took me out of the movie. Um, that said, I won't say it wasn't good. Like it's not terrible for sure. It's better than an Alien Covenant. Would I watch it more than like a Prometheus? Probably not. I'll think about that. I'll go back and just double check my rankings at the end, but um, I'll have it in the entertaining category. It had some cool deaths and stuff and some small things, so I won't just like completely knock it. And I'll also say I'm not like one of those purists where if it's not like the original Predator, if it doesn't do the the exact right thing with the lore, like I get it. It's 30 years later, and you're just like reinventing a franchise to get people to watch. So um, it's okay. All right, then we get to The Predator. Now, The Predator, I didn't know anything about. Um, I again probably knew a couple of the actors, and I like seen a preview or something at some point. I was like, oh, there's Thomas Jane, or there's what's his name, Keegan Michael Key from Key and Peele. Um, felt like there was somebody else in there. I was like, oh, I recognize that person. Um, oh, I think his name's Lynch in there. He was like a dude in Game of Thrones. But anyway, so I thought that it was going to be like a sequel to something, assuming the Predators, because I don't think it came out all that much later, but it wasn't really, unless I missed something. Um, it was a very different tone to me than the others. It was like a dark comedy kind of deal sometimes, but wasn't consistent. Like sometimes it was more of a Predator type movie. So yeah, I struggled a bit to like change my mindset to watch it with that tone. And then I kind of just realized, oh, this movie isn't good. Like it's sometimes taking itself too seriously, and sometimes it's like either go all in and make it like a bit of a joke, or don't. And so it was a little in between there. Now that said, there were some characters in this movie that I thought were fine. Like they were kind of funny. I laughed a little bit. Was it the place for it? Was it the movie for it? Probably not. I didn't really care for the main character. He was like kind of bland and boring sniper dude. So he meets up with these like PTSD folks. He's supposed to be blamed for like the Predator killed some folks on his platoon and they're blaming it on him. So he's got this, he gets put on a bus. Um, they're called the Loonies, I think. And they all have like issues from something they did while in service. And so anyway, they escape and they bring along with them Olivia Moon. That's or Munn or whatever you pronounce her name. She was another person I recognized who my understanding was she's a biologist. As the show or the movie went on, it was like she was a biologist mercenary who could make all the right combat decisions, jump around, do whatever parkour needed to get where she needed to go. I was like, what's the point of this? And so I didn't quite get that. She came like she started in a lab where she was getting asked about the biological parts of the predator and what they're doing. The predator was like fastened down to a table and then it woke up and like started killing everybody. Again, if you're gonna have this thing alive, like legit make sure that it's tied down. And if it's not and it wakes up, have something immediately ready to knock it out. Not like, oh, it's on a table with like, two ropes tied to it or metal or whatever it was. Um, there was an interesting tie to this movie, and I was curious, so I looked it up, which was that the like I don't know if he's the lead scientist or one of the main scientists. Dude, he told her, "Don't let the thing get away." Once she like was spared by the predator because she wasn't a threat, she was just for some reason changing her clothes and naked in the thing. I know she had to change into like a science suit, but then when she left, instead of just like leaving, I guess the decontamination made it worthwhile to go ahead and switch her clothes again. But anyway, the guy who told her not to do that is Gary Busey's son in real life. And apparently it's his son in the show, from what I read with their last name. They're both Keys. So, interesting fact. So the Predator movie takes a bit of a turn with me because I'm like, oh, okay, so this is a movie about these loonies and they're gonna have to like take out the predator. No, that's not what the movie is really about. The movie is about the family of the guy. His son is autistic, and it is kind of implied, not implied. It is said that it's like the next evolution of humanity, and the reason this kid can do all these things is because he's like on this next plane of thought. He can like understand predator technology and figure out where the ship is and where how to use the mask, and he actually puts on the mask for Halloween, which is why the predator finds him. So very kind of weird messaging and like purpose behind it. And then I was like, well, this is stupid because it's kind of like Iron Man 3, which I hated that movie. Very dumb. I know some people like it. It doesn't make any sense. But then I realized the person who made this movie is the person who did Iron Man 3. So they did the like exact same thing with the kid. And I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but it's like, oh, a kid who can, understand technology and all this other stuff. And it's like, come on. At some point, you got to have some reasonability within these films. And that's not it, even though this was like a dark comedy. So that was dumb. They have these like predator dogs in it. One of them becomes like gets shot in the head, and I guess it's like a lobotomy or something, where he starts behaving and becomes like their pet. And they're like, oh, pet predator dog, pet dog. So that was a little weird. And then the bad guy, I can't remember. He's been in something else. I recognized him, but he was kind of a, I don't know, tropish kind of bad guy. You know, oh, I'll be nice to you until I'm not, and then I'm like super mean. But I think he ends up like shooting himself in the head with a predator gun, if I remember. So good one there. But the loonies were kind of fun every now and then. There were some scenes that were like funny, out of place scenes, like the Olivia Munn was passed out or whatever. They had her on a bed and they kept like putting stupid things next to her to try to make her feel comfortable. And when she woke up, she was like, "Who the hell are you people?" And then they had bet on whether or not she'd pick up a gun. She picked it up, so they started exchanging money and stuff. So that was kind of funny, but good movie. It is not. The Predator, turns out, actually was trying to just bring us technology to save us from meaner predators, which were bigger. There was like a super predator that was trying to take everybody out. And so finally they get to like the super predator. The super predator kills the main predator, has like his ship. They try to like jump on the ship, which they do. I got a little confused there because the main guy jumped and like was under the shield. The shield comes up. One guy jumps on it. The other guy like gets cut in half and thrown off fine. And then the one who's like on the ship decides to sacrifice himself by throwing himself in the engine. And he's on the outside of the shield. You're telling me the shield doesn't block the engine, I guess, because of like the airflow or something that needs to go into, but it's a spaceship. I didn't quite get that. I'm sure there's some better scientific reasons. So I was like, oh, dude, that's just, you weren't paying attention. Fine. But yeah, that seemed kind of weird. And then he like slid into the ship and whatever. It was just kind of a weird nuance. So all that dumb enough. And then you get to the end. And the kid is like employed by this government entity to like translate predator technology. I was like, what the are you doing? And then it's like an Iron Man suit. He legit took like Iron Man 3 and put it in the Predator. And I'm like, how do these people get paid to make movies? Like, why does this guy get employed? And I think it's Shane Black, and he was in the original Predator as one of the characters. And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me, Hollywood, and like how these people maintain jobs and their mindsets of like what they're preaching. There was even something stupid. Was it this one where they decided to like make a comment, oh, the predators are coming more often because we have global warming? Like, I don't give a crap what your perspective is on climate change or whatever. It just, this isn't the place for it. There's no benefit. You're just making some stupid off comment about your perspectives that don't belong in this movie. It did not drive anything. It doesn't make any sense. Like, just leave it out. Trust me, leave it out. Your preaching does not go over well when I'm trying to like take myself out of the real world. So anyway, this movie was not good. There was a lot to say about it. I will have it in the terrible category, more than not good. Would I rather watch it over these other ones? Man. So if you were limiting this movie to just like more time with the loonies and a predator fight, yeah, I could probably do it. Aliens versus Predators 2 was terrible, but at least there were some aliens in it. I'll have this one at the bottom. With some moments I would rather watch than the AVP movies, but other things that are just so dumb that there's no way I would watch it. Okay, so we'll move on to Prey. Prey is newer. Prey is back to serious mode, more serious than any of the others probably, in terms of focused on Native American culture. It goes back in time to that time. Focuses on a female protagonist, which we really haven't done that in the Predator series. That's the stalwart of the Alien series. And then her tribe. So her brother is a stronger warrior hunter dude who ends up like killing this mountain lion that makes him the war chief. I don't know the cultures. I can't remember. I think this was Comanche. But it was like you're the war chief because you killed A mountain lion? Like, what about the war with the other Native Americans or like a bear? At least. So I don't know who else was in the tribe and who was the war chief before. That was, I guess the guy died, trying to kill the lion, so they had to get a new one. But so he's the strongest of them, is what you're kind of led to believe, and that's fine because then you have to have like, okay, who's going to be the biggest, baddest for the predator to fight? Well, the movie's not about him. It's about his sister, and his sister is younger, more of a tracker slash uses her intuition to try to, solve problems. Has a better understanding that there's something out there besides a bear. And so, they keep like pushing her off and saying whatever. So she decides to go out and try to hunt this thing herself. Okay, what are you going to do if you find it? Because you're not going to kill it. Because remember, you literally just, failed against a mountain lion. Well, she goes out and you think like, she's got to like gain some skill and stuff to be able to do this. Well, she tries to shoot a bear with a bow and arrow, which again, I'm not an expert. I don't know how much that would actually do other than piss it off and like make it come at you. But she actually can't shoot a bow and arrow well. So the thing just comes and attacks her. Dog runs away, distracts it. The bear chases her. She, is about to get killed. And the predator saves her effectively because he kills the bear and like holds the bear up. And it's like a big scene. So she gets away and then has to like find a way, back to her tribe or find a way to like warn people about what's going on. So the rest of the movie is kind of like navigating that situation. She runs into like the French people who capture her and capture her brother and use them as bait to get the predator. The predator comes and kills all the cannon fodder with the French folks. But amidst that, she meets the translator, I guess, of the French, who gives her the pistol from Predator 2. And you're like, oh, it all ties together. For whatever that's worth, I don't know. But that gun was very important because that gun is what helped her to ultimately knock the mask off of the Predator, which is what was used to target the prey, and it would shoot little arrows, some kind of arrows, to kill. It's like Yondu in the Guardians of the Galaxy, where the thing floats around and kills it. So ends up killing the predator, ends up coming back, becomes the war chief, and that's that. There's a post credit scene like in WALL-E, where you see like animations of what happens in the future, and there's more predators that come. You see them kind of reminisce about the actions in the movie, and then the predator comes. The new predators come. So what do I have to say about this movie? First of all, I made a mistake, I thought, watching it just by turning it on. Because what I did was I went on Hulu and clicked the next one that said to watch, which is Prey. And it really threw me off that it was in English. And I'm not I get it. You got to be more open to audiences because they can't do subtitles and stuff. But as someone who's like watched a lot of Godzilla movies and things, I'd rather see them speak in their language. It just keeps it more real for me. Then after I finished, I realized there was a dubbed version where they do speak in like Comanche, or they dub over Comanche. I don't know if that would have been better for me because it was distracting to see them like speaking. You could tell they were speaking in English and then you would just hear the voiceover. So it's a little tricky. I probably shouldn't be too particular because one of my favorite movies of all time is Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And that's kind of a movie where they dub a lot of stuff. So, but again, that was a long, long time ago. So I would have hoped they would have just maybe recorded this in Comanche and had a dub of English, but just my thing. So anyway, hard for me to like ever really get into the movie. I really just like the whole time was like thrown off by it. Then the French people come, they're speaking French. I get it. I'm listening from the perspective of the Comanche, so I got to understand how they're hearing it. But like, yeah, it threw me off. It felt not a little. It felt too Mary Sue-ish. I think that's what they call it, right? Where you've got a female character who just like doesn't really have to like gain skill to accomplish this damn near impossible task. There was this little bit of a, not montage scene, but just her gaining skill, learning to throw her hatchet back and forth, you know, but her skill was nothing compared to like her brother. Now, again, I get that they're kind of saying, yeah, she's not as good a warrior, but the way she sets traps and the way she does, and remembers like there's a tar pit or something there, like, okay, that's what does it. Maybe, but it just doesn't. It doesn't really get to it. I mean, I will give her some credit for being somewhat creative at the end of like using bait and the guy, and then like getting behind it and stealing its mask. Okay, I mean, it wasn't so egregious that it was like Star Wars or something where you have Rey killing everybody despite never picking a lightsaber in life. But it did still feel like, man, you had some very capable warriors throughout this thing, taking it on 2-on-1, whatever, and really struggling. I think part of what it became was the Predator seemed incompetent in this one comparatively. I did feel a little more. I mentioned in like the original Predator, did feel like I kind of knew this Predator a little bit more. I was around it enough and watched its perspective, and you're like you pick up how it's fighting. It's like okay, but it was kind of dumb. Fell into some traps that it probably should have known better. Um, One thing that I didn't really understand was this was like probably what in the 1700s or something. I can't remember what year they said. I think it's on the gun. But why is the Predator's technology not the same essentially as like in what's in the 80s movie, the 87 movie? Like I get that it's like 100 or 200 years later or something, but for the Predators, they have interstellar travel, like they're going through wormholes. Now, you could tell me, oh, well, they only use the technology of what they're hunting. Like you don't use lasers on a, population that uses arrows. But I don't know that that's really what they were doing. It feels like they were kind of just like, oh, well, it's a more primitive predator. Yeah, but again, they've already achieved technology that's insane. You see some of it in the movie, but some of the other weapons are like primitive. So just a little weird, and maybe it's nitpicky and nobody else cares about that, but that was kind of strange. Um, I thought the side characters were okay, and I know it was really a movie centered on her, and she was okay. Her brother was fine, and I thought he was at least the way he died was courageous and stuff, so that was always good. You didn't want him just be like blindsided and killed, but yeah, for the most part, the rest I was just like, which Native American you're all just doing the same thing. You're all making fun of her. You're all putting her down, and then you go do your own thing. And like okay, to have some difference in personality a little bit. But her brother was like kind of the big brother, like hey yeah you're capable, but no, you're kind of not. And then he realizes at the end, oh, she has a lot of capability. So coming of age story in the middle of a Predator film is really what it is. So Prey, where does Prey fit like in this and where I would watch? I wouldn't care to see this movie again. There were some things too I should have mentioned, like the CGI was for like the animals was jarring for me, like seeing the wolf and the bear, and I'm like, they don't seem like a real wolf or a real bear. Threw me off a bit. So I'm just gonna throw Prey and entertaining for now. I'm gonna have to figure out where these sit. Okay, Killer of Killers. I just watched this one. It's an animated movie. I didn't know much about this at all going into it, so I like legit just had to try to process it as I was going. Um, and I don't really know how it was received. Like I don't know if it's considered awesome or not good or whatever. I'm torn on it. There are some things I liked about it and some things I did not like about it. What it really reminded me of is a series that I saw at least a couple seasons of that I feel the same way about, which is Love, Death, and Robots. I think that's like a Netflix show. But essentially, that's like 30-minute segments of like these just disparate stories of like sci fi. Some are awesome, some are not so good. Some make some sense, others don't. And this kind of felt like that to me, where you had the first section, which was like they're probably what 30 minutes a piece, something like that, 20 minutes of Vikings. You're back in the Viking days. Then the middle one is samurai or shogun era of Japan, and then the last one is World War II. Um, I struggled at the beginning because of the animation. It's not my style. I understand that it's probably a cool style to some people. It's kind of like Spider-Man, the Into the Spider-Verse stuff, which some people love. I don't like that animation that much, and it's not the same animation. It's like the herky jerky part of it. It's not my thing. I like smooth animation. Personal opinion. Um, but getting past that, like getting to the story, it was like the first segment with the Vikings was fine. It was the characters were interesting enough, but it didn't feel like I was with them long enough. Like I didn't have enough emotional gravity of like what was happening. It's a very simple formula for what they were doing. It's like, oh, this person's facing some adversity. They're going to address their adversity. When they get their adversity handled, the predator comes and attacks them. And then how do they deal with the predator? Okay. So this lady has, her father was killed by her because his rival or whatever forced her to do it, and the dad insisted on it. Whatever. She comes back years and years later. We don't see how she becomes a great warrior. We don't see anything that like gives us this like emotional charge with her, at least for me. And then she has her son with her, who again you don't really see anything about him other than it's her son, and he's like obviously devoted to helping her with her cause. So they fight all this stuff, and it's crazy action, right? Like this is even beyond normal predator action. This is like I can kill 50 humans in 5 seconds kind of action, which fine, that's what they were going for. Um, but gets there, ends up, being kind of emotionally challenged, and her son beheads the guy. Like the guy was like taunting her, and she was getting charged by it. And then the predator attacks, and then it becomes this battle, and everybody dies except for her. And it's this fight under like the ice and the water, and he's got this like sonic gun or pulse gun or something, and she uses it to her advantage, and all these things. So anyway, predator dies. Her son ends up passing away, and then you just see her with a collar on her neck, and she's out in a spaceship. Then it goes to the next guy. The next guy is the samurai, and the samurai is about him growing up with his brother, and then they have to fight each other for the honor of being the next whatever shogun or whatever the father is. And so the one wins, the other one doesn't want to fight. The other one, defends himself but gets sliced in the cheek or something, and then he goes off and becomes a ninja, shogun or samurai or something, whatever, and comes back many many years later to like get revenge. So he gets there, he gets revenge, thinks he killed his brother. Then the predator, and he didn't want to kill his brother, like it was just to like shame him and then be done with it. But the guy falls, the brother falls, and then the predator attacks, and then it ends up the brother's not dead, and they're both fighting the predator. They kill the predator together, but the one is wounded and dies. The story of the brother, coming back together deal before the guy dies. So that was a good one. I enjoyed like the feel of it. I always enjoy the Japanese culture thing. And then the last one was a pilot, and he's like a Hispanic pilot in World War II. His dad bitches about him not being a mechanic, and you gotta like take care of your plane instead of just flying it. You can be a great pilot, but you can't. You gotta know how to take care of your plane. For some reason, would never do that. He ends up going to the Corps, and has the same problem. Well, the predator ends up attacking, but this isn't a normal predator. This is a flying predator. The predator has his spaceship, and he's taking out these planes. And so they take off, and they're like fighting, and this kid's like, well, I got to go save him because I have a sense of what's the problem, what's going on. So he takes this bucket of bolts plane he's been working on that won't work, that finally works, and he goes up, and he's watching all these guys get mowed down, and his captain's like, hey, what are you doing out of here? And he's trying to save the day. This one felt ridiculous to me a little bit. I mean, it was a lot of it. It was, the predators taking down these planes. Again, I guess it's the whole concept of, well, you can use, primitive weapons, but it was like just reusing Predator weapons on a plane or a spaceship. It's like, oh, I'll shoot a grappling hook out and take the plane out. It's like, why? I'm going to throw a net at it. Why? You just shoot it. Dogfight. And the other thing that just kept popping in my head, I'm like, okay, this technology is so far advanced from these planes. Like in any war in our history, if you have a slight advantage with the plane, like it goes a little faster, it pitches a little quicker, like it's going to mow down a ton of other planes. So if you took, just say you took like a, not even super easy, like an F-22 and put it up against a biplane from like World War One, that's what this is. And it's like, how in the world could, 40 biplanes take down one Predator plane, let alone like one? So, or 40 biplanes take down an F-22, let alone one. So I didn't get that. And then to make it even dumber, the kid's like crawling out on the wing of the plane to like dislodge something. Like it's impossible. You're flying off. Like there's just no way that the plane isn't going to like dip and fly everywhere. And I know he was trying to like brace it. It just didn't make any sense. So it was a little out there. And then I get the real reason the Predator got shot down was because it ran into like battleship guns and things. But, whatever. It didn't make much sense. So all three of them, you think that's it? No, all three of them are on the spaceship. They get put in this gladiator arena, which I got confused by because I'm like, the last guy just got put on there with the two awake, and they're like sitting there, and I'm like, were they in cryo sleep? Because she's from like the 800s, he's from what 1700 era feudal Japan or some 1500, I don't know. And then this kid's like the 1940s. I'm like, they're not from the same time period, and they're getting thrown in this gladiator arena. You've got like this super, the gladiator king or whatever. I think she called him Grendel. King or something, and they can't speak the same language, so they can't communicate. They're trying to figure out how to communicate. All fine, that makes sense. And they're fighting each other, and they realize they need to try to get out. Well, the kid gets swallowed by a monster, but somehow gets out and somehow figures out how to use the arm technology for a Predator to like release everything. Why that guy has access to do that? He's just a minion. I have no idea. And then he like steals a motorcycle. They like get away, and then they almost get in a space, or they get in a spaceship, but it gets like grappling hooked, and she comes down and takes out the grappling hook so they can kind of get away, and the Predator sends stuff to go get him. So they recapture her. They don't kill her, and then they take her into a frozen thing where before the credits roll, you see the Native American girl from Prey, and you're like, oh my gosh, they captured her too. Well, fortunately, I continued to watch through the credits as I was doing something else, and at the end, you actually see Danny Glover and Arnold Schwarzenegger from the first two. So they had been caught later on and put in this isolation to fight later. Which I don't know. None of it added up to me because of the time frames. It's like, okay, so she's from the Native American girl, and I'm sorry, I forget all these names. I'll get them in the next video when I do characters. She is from like the 1700s. The pilot guy is from like the 1940s. So why isn't she fighting with this earlier group and he not fighting with Arnold and Danny Glover? I don't know. The timing felt so weird. So anyway, that's a lot to say about this movie. I didn't really like it. It could have been better. The way it could have been way better to me is actually flesh it out. Like, I like the concept of having Predators fight different, time periods of human beings. Like if you'd have had, like instead of the pilot, I'd rather have like a Western gunslinger or something. It's pretty, it can be a little cliche with like Dark Tower or Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and all that. But it's like have a gunslinger, makes more sense. There's other periods and things. You could have like a Greek warrior, Roman legion, whatever, but when you do that, don't just make it like a 20-minute thing. Make it like a full hour episode or somewhere you have investment in caring about these characters, and then maybe have a big reveal at the end that they're captured and put. But even that, I think, is a little bit dumb. It dissuades from the lore to me. So, Killer of Killers, I'll have in the entertaining as well, but it's probably going to be a little bit lower. The only other thing I'll say before I finalize and rank here is that I think they missed a huge opportunity with Predator. I've said this for years. Before the movie Prey even came out, I always thought that Predator 2 should have been Prey. But it should have been Arnold Schwarzenegger figuring out how to get back to the Predator's homeworld and then taking them out and seeing it from like the Predator's perspective, where like Arnold's taking them out, you know. I thought that would have been a cooler movie to watch at some point. We never got it. Now, you know, with Killer of Killers, maybe that's what they're insinuating. It's like, oh, we'll bring Dutch back and whatever. But I don't think so. So we'll start there and make sure I've got the right order for these movies. At the bottom, would I rather watch? Man, I'm telling you, like the autism stuff and everything's very distracting in this movie. How they solutionize everything. So I'm going to keep that down there. Alien versus Predator 2 is completely terrible. Alien versus Predator was terrible. Alien Earth, yeah, not good. Would I rather see Covenant over that? Yes. Would I rather see Killer of Killers over Covenant? Yes. Would I rather see Killer of Killers over Prey? Yes. Would I rather see Killer of Killers over Predators? Yeah. Okay, so these two. Would I rather see Prey or Predators? I would rather see Predators. I just, I don't know. It's really dumb. I'm gonna have Prey above it. I'd rather watch Prey. The only difference, the only reason I say that is like Prey's a little bit more scaled down. Like there's just, you're really focused on her. I didn't feel like there was like a lot going on. At least with like Predators, there's like different guys with guns and things. But it was stupid. So I'll have Prey above that. Prometheus or Killer of Killers. I did not like Prometheus that much. I'd probably have Killer of Killers over that. But that's where it stops, because I'd rather see Alien 3 over Killer of Killers. I'd rather see Alien Resurrection. These two I go back and forth on. Alien 3 is like the better movie. It's still like depressing and like a weird turn for where Aliens ended, but it is a better movie than Resurrection. But Resurrection is a little more entertaining to me. Like I could rewatch Resurrection. Maybe it's just because Alien 3 is so damn depressing, but Resurrection I could watch a little bit more. Romulus is good. It is not a great movie by any stretch. It's too they take too much from old stuff. They're trying to get it to a new audience. I get it. It's fine. It's like, ooh, I watched this. Now let me go back and watch Alien. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, the ending was a little weird and some other stuff. So not there. Predator 2 is probably not as good a movie as Alien Romulus in terms of like the quality of it, the seriousness of it, that kind of thing. It's a little hokey at times, a little whatever, 90s-ish, but I like it more. It's definitely more entertaining to me. And then these I talked about a little bit. I think this is right. I think Alien is an incredible movie, well made. Is it as rewatchable for me as like Predator? No. Predator, again, I could throw on the last half of Predator and just watch it multiple times. Super cool. And then Aliens to me is just great throughout. Like best one to watch overall. So those are the ratings. I think I went through this first time. These are like kind of 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10s. These are like 7s. These are like 5 to 6s. Like 6 maybe for these first 3, 4. Prey 5. Yeah, I'm fine with that. These are like 6s. And then the not goods get down to like 4s. Terribles are down at the 2 and 3 level. So yeah, that's the Predator and Aliens movies are new and coming out. I have no excitement to go see it, but maybe I'll throw it on here once I get done with it. Likely on streaming. Then I'll go to the theater for that one. All right, so that wraps up the Alien and Predator movies.